Do you feel like you're struggling at the net as a blocker? Do you think that you should be getting some more touches while you are a blocker at the net? If this sounds like you, check out this video. Hey guys, welcome back to the Better at Beach YouTube channel. My name is Brandon. If you feel like you're not a sufficient blocker, there's a couple of things that we think that you can focus on that can certainly up your game while you're at the net. Footwork, posture, and hand placement. Most of the time, if you're struggling at the net, it's probably because you are a little off with one of those three things. So in today's lesson, we're going to tackle those three keys and try to get you some more blocks. The first key that we're going to talk about dealing with blocking has to do with footwork. And if you've ever watched any of our passing videos, then you know that we like to deal with shuffle steps rather than crossover moves. And it's the same thing when we want to talk about blocking. When you are at the net and you are trying to become a blocker, then you need to get to the net before you block. A lot of times when we see beginners or intermediate players trying to block for the first time, they actually start about 5 feet off from the net and then they run to the net to make their block. That's something that we really want to avoid. So when we're finding our starting positioning in order to work on our proper footwork, you need to make sure that you are about arm's distance from the net if your arms are at 90-degree angles. Once you have found that starting position, now we can start talking about how we're going to move in front of the attacker. So obviously, whenever we're blocking, we want to be in front of that attacker's line of approach, almost like we're going to take a charge in basketball, or we're gonna let that attacker run straight into us. As long as we are able to find that positioning, then that's gonna set us up for a really successful block. One thing that I need you to think about when we're talking about footwork is when you are moving side to side to find that positioning of getting in front of that attacker, we need to make sure that it is shuffling you are using rather than a crossover step. If you cross over while you are trying to get in front, one thing that happens is you end up turning your shoulders as you are crossing over. And when that happens, now you are not square to that attacker. So it's a really good chance that more than likely, one of your hands isn't gonna be able to get over the net as much as possible. If you use a shuffle step by getting in front of that attacker, then you are always going to have your chest square to that attacker. So when you go up to penetrate, you are going to have your body square to the net, which is going to allow for maximum penetration. The second key that we want to talk about deals with posture. When we're talking about posture, most of the time, we want to always be in an athletic position. So if the net is in front of me, I want to always be in this kind of quarter squat, even while I'm shuffling back and forth, because this is going to keep me in that athletic position so that if I have to make a very quick movement, I can do that without losing any time. If we start in this straight up position, which we see a lot of players when they're at the net, if they make their move, then what they have to do is they have to drop down really low before they go up and block. But if you stay in this loaded position, you go with your shuffles, which we've already talked about, and then you go up straight from your block, you're going to increase your time and it's going to allow you to move a lot easier. So whenever we're talking about posture, make sure you're keeping that distance from the net, you're in almost a quarter of a squat, and you hold that while you're moving before you drop down to make your jump. The third key that we need to focus on is our hand positioning. And we've already talked about whenever you're starting your block, you're trying to find the distance from the net, you need to keep your arms at 90 degrees. This is gonna help you keep the distance from your net so that you don't get the net when you're jumping up. So find that distance first by getting your arms at 90 degrees and keep that distance throughout your shuffle before you jump. Once you have decided that you are in the correct location and you are ready to jump and commit to this block, then after you get into the air, you need to make sure that you penetrate over the net as quickly as you possibly can. One of the big problems that we see is that players reach high before they get over. We need to get over the net and penetrate before we think about getting high in the air. If you're able to do this, then I promise you're going to get more block touches. If you just commit to going high, then you're always going to miss these sharp hits that are to your sides. Once your hands have gone over the net and you have penetrated onto the other side of the court, now we need to think about hand positioning. And what we need to do with this is we need to make sure that our hands are facing into the court. So for instance, if I'm blocking on the right side of the court, my right hand needs to be turned so that if it hits my hand, it deflects back into the court. A lot of the times, if we see a hitter coming at us, we will have our hands facing that hitter, and if it hits our hands, it's a very easy tool out of bounds. So make sure that you are thinking about finishing your block, whether you're on the right side or left side, with your hands finishing into the court. If you're able to do that and you are able to get these block touches, then it's going to guarantee that you're pushing that ball into the court, hopefully allowing you to score. Wait a second, before you guys go, I've been absolutely loving the comments that we've been getting recently, so I want to ask you guys a question once again. And in the comments below, I want you to let me know if you're struggling with blocking. Is the error that you are just not touching any attacks at all, hitters are just swinging past you at all times, or are you getting tooled a lot, meaning that you're touching a lot of attacks with your hands, but they're either going on your side of the net and scoring points, or they're deflecting off your hands and going out of bounds? Let me know in the comments so I can help you out and give you some guidance. Also, if you're interested in diving a little bit deeper into blocking or defense altogether, make sure you keep an eye out for our blocking course and our live defensive masterclass, which is going to be only held once per year. So make sure you keep an eye out for that so we can get you better at defense and blocking.